his first couple preseason games and just a series in the third one. And so that really kind of started from 18 on. And I think this is a lot closer to 2017 where we're kind of learning a lot about these guys. But the guys that have been big contributors, that have played a lot of snaps, we'll tilt towards them, being smart with them. But for the most part, there's going to be a lot of guys that are playing and very few guys that won't.
Sean, some visible frustration from Tuesday's practice. Now at the end of this week, where do you think you guys stand and how do you think you guys have improved, if any?
What I appreciate about this group is they're getting better. Like we've talked about, we're a really young group. We're doing a lot of different situational football. What I like is that when we're stringing together a lot of long drives and guys naturally get tired, we're trying to simulate, all right, how can we keep our focus and concentration? And I thought there was some lapses, but then I thought they did a good job of being able to finish. I thought there was a lot of good plays on both sides of the football. The tape is always, a better reflection after you go back and look at it, but there are some things that you can't see on the tape in terms of the operation in and out of the huddle that I still think we can clean up those types of things. We've got some young guys that are doing things for the first time, and so certainly there's going to be some patience, but they want to learn, and I just want to see our guys not make the same mistakes twice, and that's what I've seen. And one thing that you guys, I think you can all agree with, is that there's an energy, there's an effort. We can continue to correct those things, but we want to be able to start seeing those things minimize. And I was pleased with today, and there's always going to be things that we can clean up, otherwise there'd be no need for us.
Sure, understanding you're not going to play star players like Matthew. How do you gauge the risk-reward with some of those guys that have played a lot, like may play in the preseason, and the fact that they could be injured?
I think it's a case-by-case thing, Gary. I mean, if a guy has played a lot of snaps and it's somebody that's been in big-time games, then we don't have a whole lot of those guys right now, but we do have a handful of them. And those guys, I think you'll be smart with them. But I do think there's something to be said, Gary, for even just getting your pads on, going through a warm-up, having some of those, good pregame jitters where you're playing real NFL football and there's actually fans in the stands and you can play tackle and do some of the things that we don't always simulate in practice settings just because we want to try to minimize the risk for injuries. And a lot of that will also be predicated on what do we feel like we get out of those practices as it relates to against the Raiders and against the Broncos. We talked with the staff a couple days ago about kind of what the preliminary plans might be for the Chargers, but we're still evaluating that as we get through this block and wrap up our time here at Irvine.
Sean, I didn't see Robert Rochelle out there with his status.
Reggie came to me, he said his ankle was bothering him a little bit, so he kind of ended up, just kind of not being able to finish up. I think his ankle was bothering him is what Reggie had communicated to me.
And with that, it looked like Trey Tomlinson was able to get some more opportunities because of that. What did you see from him?
He's a competitive guy. I thought he made a really nice play from kind of an off technique on a slant route to the short field. What I like about him is he just continues to compete. He's not afraid to come up and challenge guys. And Aubrey does such a great job with that group as a whole, as well as, Mike Harris and Chris Speak. But he's moved around a little bit. But I thought, you felt his presence today. And he's definitely a competitive guy that doesn't back down from a challenge.
You guys have a couple of instances of players who you've moved around actually by necessity. Last year, Michael Hoyt came up with them when you ran out of outside linebackers, and then this year in the spring, Logan Russ out to right tackle, and there were limited tackles present.
Right.
What can you learn from things like that agility that's required, not just of you guys as planners, but the players themselves?
Well, I think you learn about, their ability to be able to learn multiple spots. I think you get a better chance to see, all right, where are their best natural fits. And I thought Hoyt had done a really good job as an interior player, and he was one of the few interior defensive linemen that could go be a core special teams player. I think he, is probably a little bit more comfortable at outside backer. I think he's done a nice job. And, Logan had played, Jake Temme, I got to give him some credit. He had played 17% of his snaps at guard at Wisconsin, but 83% of them at tackle, and he looks more comfortable out there. I think that's probably where he'll stay for now. He can always potentially bump inside, but you could see, I think it was important for him, by necessity, like you mentioned, Jordan, but also coming off the injury, I think it was important to be able to stack some good days, and he's got a good look in his eye. I think he's really comfortable outside at that tackle position. Does that mean he'll never play guard again? We might be forced into adjusting that, but I think right now being able to kind of keep him at tackle and continue to figure out what's going to be that best combination. There's a lot of competition still, a lot of things that we're trying to really be able to figure out, and that's why we've got to be able to take that approach. And whether it be with the preseason or in some of these practice settings. But it's been fun to be able to see guys have the ability to move around, whether it be by necessity or because we feel like it's the best spot for them.
What is Cooper's status, and where was
Raheem decided to retire. So, no, Raheem and Jimmy Lake got a chance to go. They were obviously huge parts of Rondé Barber's career, and what a special accomplishment. Really happy for all 9 of those guys. That's such an incredible thing, and being just such a fan of the game. But they got a chance to go out to Canton. They'll be back tomorrow. They'll fly back, but they were there for the Gold Jacket dinner, and then they were there for the presentation today. So that's really cool. Rondé Barber's a really special player, and so that's where he was. And then Cooper, it's really day to day. He just felt a little tweak. It was a red zone route. Just felt a little tightness in his hamstring. I don't think it's anything to be overly concerned with, but want to be able to be smart with him. And I'm hopeful to get him back out here sooner than later. But he knows his body so well, and he's got a specific plan. And you guys see him; he's out here moving around. As far as exactly when he's back, I'm definitely hopeful that by the time we at least have our competitive practices against the Raiders, he's able to get that kind of work, because I think that is important. Don't want to rush it, but I think it's kind of more of a day-to-day thing. It's not something that we expect to drag on, but you never know with the soft tissue stuff.
Circling back to that, I
Couple more, yeah.
wanted to ask about Rob and maybe how he's eased some of the pressure on your staff with all the injuries last year, a lot of turnover this year. Having that solid piece, the veteran guy now, just how he interacts with you guys, maybe as sort of a liaison or takes the pressure off, working with the young guys, whatever it might be.
Yeah, he's got such great natural leadership traits. I think he got a chance to witness the way that Andrew did it, and I think they're 2 great leaders. Andrew's obviously such a special player, and Rob is a great leader in his own way. And so I think you've seen Rob naturally step into a leadership role that's comfortable for the way that he moves. He's got a great way about challenging guys, and I think it's really easy because he ends up, doing the exact same things. He's not asking guys to do things that he's not doing. He's so smart and cerebral, conscientious as hell. I love Rob Havenstein. He's been here from the very beginning, and you see, you talk about a throwback right there. Rob Havenstein, we had him at guard because he was so lean, getting ready for his wedding when we first got here in 2017. But he's done a great job. He's one of those guys. He'll be a captain again. Be shocked if his teammates don't vote him as a captain just because of the respect that he's earned. And I think the key thing is the respect that he's earned based on what he's done and the way he carries himself day in and day out. And he certainly does take a lot of pressure off the coaches, and he's in essence an extension of this.
So you've been talking a lot about the young guys and everything. So in terms of their energy, especially compared to previous camps, you have way more. How has that affected really the chemistry of the team and really just the atmosphere of this training camp so far?
Well, I think it's great. It's very different. I don't want to say that there wasn't energy on the other group, but you got a lot of youthful energy, and there's a lot of excitement because there's a lot of competition. There was maybe a little bit more of an understanding where you guys could take an estimate on who are going to be the projected 22 starters, and so I think that makes these practices mean I don't want to say mean more, but there's guys that are legitimately having opportunities to be evaluated on a day-to-day basis, and there's a lot of fluidity as it relates to that. So the youth, and then based on that youth too, we have the ability to do a little bit more practice. Reggie's such a Reggie won't even let us take a couple snaps without doing some of the sports performance. So it does enable us to be able to get some more work in, which is always fun. And so I've really enjoyed this group. We're having fun out here, and there's still those moments that you want them to do better, but they do too. And so that's what makes it all the worthwhile. Okay, thanks guys. All right.